What's up everybody on YouTube? AJ Red's about to discuss another video, and today we're going to be recapping NFL Week 13. 5 more weeks into the season, guys, until the postseason. That's crazy to say. This year is going by so fast, but that means so many more great games to come in the playoffs in store. It's going to be a great time, guys, so let me know in the comments down below what you were thinking about the season so far, some of your biggest takeaways. But with that being said, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications. I post videos about sports, lifestyle, and pop culture. Let's go and get into this video because there's definitely a lot to talk about. The first game was a Thursday night thriller between the Dallas Cowboys and the Seattle Seahawks. Really the best game, obviously, of the NFL Thursday night slate this season because the rest of them have either been mid or trash, to be honest. Let's be real. So this is a really good game, high scoring matchup between the Cowboys and the Seahawks. The Cowboys won 41-35. Definitely a game Cowboys fans were definitely nervous for, as the Seahawks did hang 35 on them. It's definitely a mixed sign, I would say, for the Cowboys defense because they let a lot go. Deron Bland, who obviously has been having a great season, got torched by DK Metcalf, who had 134 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. But Bland did have an interception, so that makes up for it in a sense. But at the end of the day, the Cowboys got the W. Really good win for them, and you have to respect the Seahawks because they're for sure gonna be in the mix to make the wild card, definitely. And they have another game in week 14 against the 49ers again. That's gonna be tough, and we're gonna talk about the 49ers later because they had a dominant week 13 win against the Eagles. Yeah, I mean, it was a good game for the Seahawks. Obviously one that they let get away. You can't let Micah Parsons be unblocked on that last play in 4th down. That's just inexcusable. But for the Cowboys, it's a great win for sure. Dak, like we talked about in previous weeks, he's playing MVP level football. This is a good win over the Seahawks, and week 14 is going to be very interesting on Sunday Night Football if they're able to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, who will want to bounce back after losing to the 49ers in week 13. So that week 14 matchup is going to be great. Dak had 299 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. CD Lamb and him have a great rapport for sure, as CD had 116 receiving yards and a touchdown, being a key target. Him and Ferguson for sure being involved in the offense, really good for the Cowboys. And the next step for them would be, I would say, to get the running game involved more, get Tony Pollard going, but it's just tough, honestly. He's not a power back, he's more finesse, so it's definitely different. But like I said about their defense, is going to be something you should raise an eyebrow about for sure, because when they have receivers going motion against them, they definitely have trouble guarding them. But the Cowboys, it's a good win for them, and if they can beat the Eagles in week 14, they'll be setting themselves in position to potentially win the NFC East, but also to attempt to try to get the first seed in the NFC. There's a couple of games that took place this week that really aren't worth much of this time. I hate to say it like that. I hate, if you're a Colts or Titans fan, I hate to say that, but I mean, honestly, what are these teams going to do? For the Colts, respectively, I will say they have a chance to be a wild card in the AFC for sure, so props to them. They did beat the Titans 31-28 in overtime. We don't really have to go through their stats, I mean, unless y'all want to hear about every single player in this matchup. At the end of the day, it was a good win for the Colts, who are still having a really good season, I would say, despite Anthony Richardson getting hurt, so that's a good thing for them. Will Levis, he had an inefficient passing percentage, but he's still trying to get his rhythm in for sure. And I think Will Levis, he can certainly be a really good quarterback in the NFL. Derrick Henry had a pretty good game, had 102 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, but of course this is an AFC South matchup, really a game that the Colts were expected to win and did that. And for the Titans, I mean, I think that there's going to be a solid amount of change. I think Mike Vrabel is a really good coach, but with saying that, I wouldn't be surprised if they moved on from him, but we'll see what happens. This is another game that classifies as a yawn game, a matchup between the Atlanta Falcons and New York Jets. The Falcons won 13-8. They're now 6-6, and they're leading the NFC South, so props to them for that. The Jets, they are definitely unwatchable, having Tim Boyle play now, of course, with Zach Wilson being the 3rd string. We all know the news that Aaron Rodgers is not going to return, which he never should have. Of course, he is defying all types of laws of gravity and science, as his recovery has been really good as a 40-year-old now, which is insane from an Achilles injury. But at the end of the day, man, the Jets, they have 8 losses. They're 4-8. They don't really have a shot in the AFC to do anything. Their offense just sucks to watch, and I'm sorry if you're a Jets fan watching this video. I feel bad for y'all. Next year, y'all definitely have to have a better contingency plan just in case anything would happen to Aaron. And I for sure think that they need to trade Zach Wilson for his mental and also just for them in general, because that's just been a huge cluster for sure. We can all agree on that. But yeah, the Falcons win this game. Not really too much to be said about this, because I feel like even if the Falcons win the NFC South, which they have a good chance of doing, they're going to be out in the first round. Let's be real. Speaking of another NFC South team, the New Orleans Saints lost to the Detroit Lions 33-28. The Lions are now 9-3 overall, have a bounce back win after losing to the Packers on Thanksgiving, and really they jumped on the Saints from the jump. They were up 21-0 in the first quarter, and then the Saints, they made a little pushback in the second half to make the game closer, but the Lions still edged them out. This is for sure a game that the Lions needed to win, not only coming off of that loss, but just in general, just to continue to rack wins up and try to maybe even have somewhat of a chance to get the first seed in the NFC, even though I don't think that they'll get it. And honestly, I don't think they're on the same level at all of the 49ers, for sure not. The Eagles Broncos or the Cowboys. They're for sure the 4th best team in the NFC, but a lot with that. And no disrespect if you're a Lions fan watching this video, I have to acknowledge the fans because you know they're always going to say something, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lost in the first round here. Let's be real. I mean, if they play like someone like a Seattle, that would be a tough game. That definitely would be a tough game. It just depends on who the wild cards would be potentially, but yeah, I mean, the Lions are really good. I feel like next year they could take another step and be like for real, but I just sense fraudulent from them. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. And for the New Orleans Saints, man, it's just ugly. Derek Carr getting booed by Saints fans. It's just a lot going on there, man. And I feel bad for Derek Carr because he is definitely a serviceable and good starter, but it just sucks. I mean, the Saints always have a good defense, but it's always to no avail. And there's just a lot of questions there in New Orleans for sure. Some teams fighting for a wild card spot in the AFC were the Houston Texans and the Denver Broncos, and this was a really good game, man. It meant a lot for both teams at the time being 6-5. And the Texans won the game, winning 22-17 over the Broncos. The Texans are now 7-5, and now of course the Broncos had an even 500 of 6-6. Ultimately, what came down to the biggest difference in this game was the turnovers. Russell Wilson did throw 3 interceptions and one key one in the fourth quarter with an opportunity to win the game on a touchdown. It's really tough for the Broncos. They were playing really good football, winning 5 games in a row, but something had to give at some point. And the Texans, they stood their ground and won the game. CJ Stroud, he didn't have the most dominant performance, but he still had 274 passing yards, completed 16 out of his 27 passing attempts, and 1 touchdown. Nico Collins had a really good game, having 191 receiving yards and 1 touchdown, but I would be remiss if I didn't say something about Tank Dell. Of course, I go to University of Houston. It means a lot for him representing U of H on the NFL stage for sure, and just praying that he has a good recovery. He fractured his fibula, of course, gonna be out for the rest of the year, but I think he for sure should be all rookie team, one of the best rookies this year, with of course CJ Stroud, Puka Nacua, and other players as well. A tough blow for sure for the Texans, but I definitely feel like they're in prime position to make the playoffs, and a really good win for them. And for the Broncos, they definitely still have a chance to make the playoffs as well. A really good game, honestly, at noon, so love that matchup for sure. Hey, I promise guys, we're not going to spend more than 45 seconds on this. Chargers and Patriots 6-0. Are you kidding me? And of course the Chargers won the game. We expected that. They're now 5-7. Wow, so good. But anyways, to be for real, bro, Chargers, they're so frustrating of a team. They should be way better than what they are, but it's just bad. I hate talking about them. And then the Patriots, I mean, this season has been a cluster for them for sure. Of course, a lot of questions. People wondering if Bill Belichick will be the coach, let alone general manager next year. I feel bad for the people who wasted their money watching this game. It might sound harsh to say that, but yeah, bro, Chargers won 6-0. Like, come on now. This was easily the biggest upset of the day. In a game that had multiple delays due to rain, the Arizona Cardinals, the 3-10 Arizona Cardinals, beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 24-10. Pittsburgh Steelers are now 7-5. And of course, a game that you don't want to lose for sure. A game that you would have thought that you would dominate, but you can't take anything for granted. Any given Sunday, that's the slogan. Anything can happen. And Kenny Pickett, of course, did not return in the game. He got injured, had returned to the sideline with a boot. And he ended up having ankle surgery on Monday. He'll likely be out for 2 to 4 weeks. So that definitely is a blow to the Steelers, knowing that you're going to have to play with Mitchell Trubisky, who was severely limited when he plays quarterback for sure. It's similar to watching the Jets in a sense with their quarterback play, so that'll be tough for the Steelers. Cardinals, a really good win for them, man. Despite being so bad, Jonathan Gannon has them playing great football, being competitive every single game of the year. You saw that when they played the Dallas Cowboys earlier in the season and beat them. So really inspirational football from the Cardinals. A bad loss for the Steelers. This game, the Dolphins dominated the Washington Commanders, winning 45-15. Now the Dolphins have a 9-3 record. I would say definitely no one is surprised by this outcome. And of course, I know y'all watching Hard Knocks right now. This is a team that's on in the in-season Hard Knocks, so it's entertaining seeing them play at a high level, then also seeing them every Tuesday on HBO Max or Max, watching stuff behind the scenes. But Tyreek Hill, man, easily for sure MVP candidate. I do not care if he's not a quarterback. It's facts. On pace to break Calvin Johnson's record. He has 1,481 receiving yards right now, and he had 2 touchdown catches in this game, over 60 yards. So definitely a testament to how great Tyreek Hill is. Had 5 receptions for 157 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. So just really elite, man. Easily, of course, we know Justin Jefferson is a menace, and he's probably going to return in week 14, I believe. But this season, Tyreek Hill for sure is the best receiver in the league, non-negotiable. AJ Brown, I would say, right behind him, and then CeeDee Lamb. But playing great football. And of course, Tua had a great game too. Had 280 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. The Dolphins are really shaping up to be good, and they have joined the Cowboys in the conversation with beating on only bad teams. But you can only play your schedule. At the end of the day, they didn't make their own schedule, so you can only dominate who you're going to play, but that's a good win for the Dolphins. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers handled business, beating the Carolina Panthers 21-18. A close matchup, but they still won, so that's what matters. The Buccaneers now have a 5-7 record. Panthers were eliminated for the playoffs before the season started. Now let me chill. But who expected them really to do good? Of course, they just fired Frank Reich. So a lot of things to go on there, but for the Buccaneers, they have a chance for sure to win the division, but it's going to be tough with the Falcons having a game over them already in a tiebreaker, and they have to play against them in the season, so we'll see what happens with that matchup. But the Buccaneers, man, Baker Mayfield definitely plays solid for them. It's like every game, you know, he'll throw an interception, but he'll play solid too, so that's the thing about it. I don't know. Definitely has been serviceable for them. Of course, Mike Evans had a dominant game, being one of the best route runners and receivers overall in the league. Had 7 receptions for 162 receiving yards and a touchdown. So you can always bank on Mike Evans being legendary, being great, one of the great receivers we've ever seen to play the game for sure. Yeah, overall, it was a good win for the Buccaneers. Not too much to be said about that. Another surprising game for many will be the matchup between the Los Angeles Rams and the Cleveland Browns. The Rams won this game 36-19, playing really good football. Matthew Stafford had 279 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. Puka Nacua went off having 105 receiving yards on 4 receptions and 1 touchdown. A really huge game for them. Of course, the Browns, they don't have Deshaun Watson. Dorian Thompson-Robinson got hurt, so they resulted to Joe Flacco, who of course won a Super Bowl 11 years ago. So being at the age he is now, really don't expect too much for him, but he did have a solid performance. Had 254 passing yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception, so that was good for them, but obviously it wasn't enough. They're now 7-5 in the AFC, for sure going to be fighting as a wild card, but the Rams are also fighting in the NFC as a wild card, so a really good win for them. I think for the Rams, not a lot of people expected a lot out of them this year. You have Matthew Stafford, who of course won the Super Bowl 2 years ago in LA, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Of course, when healthy, we obviously know that, so just a really good win for them. For the Browns, it's one that you would wish to get back, but obviously the circumstances with them having limited quarterback play, not being ideal to what they expected, they could only do so much, but definitely a good win for Los Angeles. This is a game I have been dying to talk about, the 49ers and Philadelphia Eagles. We all anticipated it being a great game, but like I kind of expected low-key, the 49ers are the best team in the league first and foremost. I think that goes without saying. We know the Eagles record, but obviously in this game we saw the 49ers dominate, winning 42-19. I think that obviously when healthy, the 49ers have the best team in the league, offensively and defensively. They are dominant. Having weapons like Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Trent Williams on the offensive line, being the big Tonka that he is. I mean, it's just hard to stop them for sure, bro. And you have to give credit to Brock Purdy, man. Everyone acts like anyone could just do that job. If anyone could do that job, then they would have been won a Super Bowl last year and a couple seasons ago. But he plays really good football, man. Being the last pick in the 2022 draft, having 314 passing yards in this game and 4 touchdowns, only having 8 incompletions, he plays really good football. You have to give props to him for sure. So Brock Purdy, he's for sure proven to be one of the best quarterbacks this season for sure. That's not crazy to say because he has played great football, so you have to give him credit. And that defense makes things so unfair, having Chase Young now, of course, having Fred Warner, having Nick Bosa, Hargrave. I mean, the list just goes on, honestly. It really does. And Deebo Samuel went off, had 4 receptions for 116 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. He really helped me in my fantasy league, so shout out to Deebo for sure. But talking about on the flip side with the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts did exit the game with a concussion, but honestly, I do expect him to play against the Dallas Cowboys in Week 14. That game is going to have a lot of implications, like we said earlier. That's really going to be a good game. But for the Eagles, this is definitely an eye-opener. A lot of people question how legit they were, not in terms of being true championship contenders, but comparing them to last year's 2022 squad, they definitely have some ways to go if they want to make the Super Bowl again. But the 49ers, like I just said, man, they are the best team in the league. AFC, NFC, KFC, whatever you want to say, they're the best team in the league for sure. Sunday Night Football was a great matchup that took place on Lambeau Field between the Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs. And surprisingly to many, the Green Bay Packers won 27-19. They've been playing really good football the past few weeks. In particular, Jordan Love has been playing great football. After starting off the first couple of games of the season pretty good, he had a period playing very inconsistent football, but he's been getting his rhythm for sure in his first year as Green Bay's starter. Just really love the poise that he's playing with. Jordan Love, his arm talent was on full display against the Chiefs. That was a beautiful game that he showed. Went 25 for 36, threw for 267 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. Played a really good game. Had a good rapport with Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. AJ Dillon had a pretty solid game, being physical in the run game. And then for the Kansas City Chiefs, this is going to be a game that you look back at and be like, dang, if you don't get the first seed. And it's definitely possible that they won't get the first seed because you have the Dolphins, the Ravens, who are also trying to get the first seed. So this might be the first postseason we see Patrick Mahomes go on the road, which obviously we'll still pick him to win in a lot of games. But the same thing, their lack of weapons at the receiver position is an eerie problem for sure. And of course, you could say that there should have been pass interference calls. Of course, I agree with that as well. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs are struggling to get up points. And that's a crazy thing to say with Patrick Mahomes as quarterback, but it's a real reality. We'll see what happens in the coming weeks going into the postseason, but it's definitely an interesting story. And going back to the Green Bay Packers, they really have a great road to potentially make the playoffs and be a wild card. The next 5 games aren't that bad. They play the Giants. I think we can agree that they'll dominate them. At least they should. They play the Buccaneers. That'll be a tough game. But the Panthers, they should dominate them. The Vikings, that'll be a tough game. And then the Bears, they should dominate. So the Green Bay Packers, they're definitely lining up to make the playoffs. The last game that took place was Monday Night Football between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Bengals won this game 34-31. Of course, Trevor Lawrence got hurt in the game. He was playing really good too, and it looked like a scary injury at first, but thankfully it's only a high ankle sprain. There's no timetable on his return, but that's a good sign considering how bad it had looked when the game was going on. But a good win for the Bengals and really keeping their playoff hopes alive despite Joe Burrow being out for the season. Jake Browning had a really good game, completed 32 out of his 37 passing attempts, passing for 354 yards and a touchdown. He played really good football, even scrambled some too. Was impressed by his mobility for sure and just how even-keeled he was. So that was a good game for sure for him and a good sign for the Bengals. Joe Mixon had 2 touchdowns. Jamar Chase had a really good game. 11 grabs for 149 receiving yards and a touchdown. And of course, like I said, Trevor Lawrence, he was playing good before he left the game. He completed 22 out of his 29 passing attempts for 258 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, had a rushing touchdown as well. And of course, Travis Etienne had a touchdown and so did Evan Ingram. But a game for the Jaguars that you wished you could have had back, because you can make the argument for sure that if Trevor Lawrence played, it wouldn't have gotten to the overtime and they would have won, but that's not what happened. I don't think that they'll win the first seed, but depending on how long Trevor Lawrence is out, they should still be able to potentially win the AFC South. But if he's out for like 2 to 3 games, that could be crucial because the Texans, they'll definitely have a chance to up the Jaguars and maybe even clinch the division over them. It just depends on how long Trevor is out because he is a key component of what they do down there in Jacksonville. But a good one for sure for the Bengals. So what we learned from this week for sure, I think that the 49ers are the best team in the league easily. NFC or AFC, 49ers will certainly have a shot to be even the first seed if the Cowboys beat the Eagles in week 14. Only time will tell with that, but those 3 teams for sure in the NFC are going to be in the mix to contend. Varying on who has a first seed, it'll definitely be paramount to see who gets that. But until then, it'll be an interesting conversation. But the 49ers, I think, regardless of where they play, home or on the road, they travel well. They'll still be able to play good and potentially beat anybody. They for sure, I feel like, should be Super Bowl favorites as long as they can stay healthy. And on the AFC side, the Dolphins do have the first seed right now, but I think that the Ravens are the best team in the AFC, in my opinion. Definitely can't say that the Chiefs are right now because of that loss. Not only that, just how inconsistent their wide receiver play has been this year and how reliant they are on Travis Kelce. But it's going to be an interesting race going into the postseason for both conferences. So let me know in the comments down below what you think, what you learned from this week, and some of your takeaways from week 13. I appreciate you guys' support always. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Follow me on Instagram at SwaggyWrestling and also on TikTok at SwaggyWrestle2 for cooking videos, shorts, reels, and things of that nature. More videos are on the way. Love making these recaps, guys. Stay tuned for more content on the channel, of course, centered around the NFL, but also the NBA. And just in general, guys, love all the support lately. Hope y'all are doing well. Almost 2024, that's crazy, but hope y'all are enjoying your December. Y'all have a good one, and y'all be blessed.